we Jess will say 1, 2, 3, record, and then we'll just hit records on our computer, and then I will count us down to clap, so that way we can line up the audio. So I'll say like 1, 2, 3, clap. We'll all clap, and that way Jess can like put the claps together, and it helps the audio to sync.
So on my end, on my computer, at the clap, I should start recording, correct?
No, Jess
Or
will
no?
say 1, 2, 3. Go ahead.
I'll say
okay.
1, 2, 3, and we'll like hit record on each of our computers, and then she'll count us with a clap, line it up.
Yeah. Okay. All right, sounds good.
All right. Okay, so go ahead, Jess.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, record.
All right. Now for the clap. 1, 2, 3. Clap. Perfect. It doesn't sound lined up on Skype, but it always works out. And it's our very professional way of syncing audio. So, all right. Well, let's get started then. All right, we'll just go. We're gonna do our little intro, and then we'll get right into it. Okay. Welcome back to another episode of the In Raw Life podcast. We are super excited that you're joining us this month because it is all about talking to some really incredible women that we either have in our lives or in our outer communities, our inner communities, and we've seen these women thrive, and they're inspirational, and that's why we want to bring them to you. So the very first entrepreneur that we are talking to this month is Reem from My Coach. Nope, I'm already messed it up. Dang it. Okay, is Reem from My Coach Reem, and she has a coaching business that helps other entrepreneurs to thrive, right? And we are, both Jessica and I are part of her Facebook group. We've seen her momentous growth over the past year that we've been in it, which I will get all into the details of it. But we've just seen like what she always shows up authentically, and I think that's what drew us to you, honestly. So that's why we wanted her to come and share part of her journey today. So without further ado, Reem, introduce yourself. Tell us more about you. We only know you through Facebook, so tell us about who you are, what you do, everything.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you too. I didn't even realize you have been kind of been part of my journey in the past year. So I actually really appreciate that, and I appreciate you being part of that. So yes, my name is Reem. I'm a business coach and marketing mentor, and I help women monetize their skills and turn their genius into a profitable online business. Who I am, I mean, I'm someone who grew up in all parts of the world. I was born in North Africa. I grew up in France. Then I moved to Quebec in Canada, and now I'm in the US. So I've been quite around. And I've always worked in the past in the corporate world, but mostly working in digital marketing and the online marketing space. So this is not a new space for me. I've been kind of dabbling in it for over 10 years now. And today it's been an incredible journey, just being in a position where, I can help change so many lives. I've been working mostly with women, like 99% women. And it's been an incredible feeling, just because I feel like just in general, women deserve more recognition. Women are just absolutely strong, and living in the society that we are in today, I feel like it was a little bit my calling to be able to give back and help women specifically grow their business, become successful, make bank, make lots of money, and really have more balanced life and be able to spend time with their family, their loved ones, and really just be fulfilled and happy. So that's pretty much a little bit about me.
I love that. I did not realize that part of yours was to make sure that women like feel balanced, like that whole aspect. I didn't realize that was part of your motivation. And I love that, because we've had business coaches in the past, and some of them are all about the hustle. And it's like, no, this is not, like, I want to have a successful business, but not at the cost of a hustle that's going to burn me out. So I love that is part of your theme.
Yeah, it is. And I think it wasn't always the case. maybe it would all make sense when I tell you a little bit more about kind of my story. But I do completely agree with you. I feel like in general, there's a lot of teachings out there, coaches out there that maybe aren't really valuing balance like we would. And it's all about the hustle mentality. And I just don't adhere to that. So I love to find ways to still be able to be successful, grow a profitable business, still do the marketing, the sales, all that stuff that is really natural part of a business growth and scaling journey, but without really sacrificing time and sacrifice and all that. So yeah, this has become part of my identity lately.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so can you tell us, because you used to work 9 to 5, like corporate job, right? Can you tell us what that looked like, what that felt like that brought you to what you do now?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I had a 9 to 5 for a long time. Oftentimes it was not a 9 to 5, it was like a 7 to 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it had been like that for many, many years. And to be honest, at some point I was feeling like this was definitely a lot. And I was also thinking of the future, right? I'm married. We don't have kids yet, but I was just trying to wrap my mind around what that would look like, having a family and still needing to be present and in a job that could potentially just suck all of my time away. And that didn't sit right with me. And I always felt like I was meant for more. A 9 to 5 was a little bit like hitting a little bit of a ceiling. And I knew I had to leave this world after making an impact. Like, I don't think I can live this life just having a 9 to 5 all my life, retire very late, and then just that's it, right? So I think we were all put on this earth for a reason, and we all have a calling. And that's how I ended up kind of just listening to my gut feeling and moving forward with helping women specifically create that freedom for themselves, right? So I had actually my 9 to 5 for a while, and then the pandemic started. And at that point, I quickly realized that I was just a number, right? I could be laid off anytime. I was not safe. There's no job security whatsoever. I think when March 2020 hit, I was in New York City. I was living there, and I was like, wow, I don't know if next month I'm going to have a job. I actually have no idea. And at that point, I was like, okay, what are my options? I can either keep doing this, hope for the best, and miraculously, I don't know, maybe I will keep my job, or I can take control of my destiny, and I can do something. And I had my group at that point. I had my Facebook group, the Badass Babes Entrepreneurs that you're part of. And I had created that group just to create a community. I didn't have a goal of monetizing it. I was like, had some thoughts, ideas, but it wasn't really my main goal. The goal was really to have a community where women can be there, ask questions, help each other, share their wins, etc. That was really the main goal of why I had created that group. And at that point, I was like,
you weren't an entrepreneur. You were a 9 to 5er with with entrepreneurial goals when you created that.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, so
I love that.
So I was like, you know what? I have a community. I have a beautiful community. I have some amazing women there. I've always thought that there's just so much more I could do in my life that's not going to be fitting the mold of a 9 to 5. And that's just that type of life that everyone is living, or most people are living, that mold that didn't sit right with me. And I told myself, you know what? It is now or never. This is literally the time. I need to do something. I need to get out of my comfort zone. I need to just get myself out there and just chase my dreams, because I'm realizing that even though I sacrificed so much time for my jobs, for the corporate world. I worked so hard with often little recognition and little guarantee that my job was going to be secure, knowing that like from one day to another, here we go, we have a pandemic, anything can happen. I was like, you know what, this is it. This is the time. So I just went for it.
Oh, amazing. So did you quit your job then?
I didn't quit it on the spot. I actually started working on my business on the side. And it just took off, and it took off faster than I thought. And
Really?
later
That's
on,
amazing.
yeah, and later on, I ended up really. I thought about it for a long time because I was like, yes, I need to be fully stable in my business before I can take that leap. And then I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the time. So I went for it.
Oh my gosh, that's so brave. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm a brave person. I think I really feel like I'm just a normal person. Like anyone could do what I've done. I don't think I'm different or special. I think it just takes a lot of commitment and really trusting the process. I think trusting the process is probably the hardest part. Like I will be okay. Things are gonna be fine, and not letting fears take over. In my decision making process. So.
Well, I also think it's cool that the whole reason you started your Facebook group was just genuine. And I feel like that probably has a lot to do with your success because you weren't starting the group to make a bunch of clients. You were starting the group to have real connections. And that's felt like your group is honestly one of the few that feels authentic. You know, like a lot of them are just like, here, I'm posting all my freebies, and yours has freebies, which is awesome. But like also it has more than that. It has like substance, and I love it. So but I feel like when we enter something with like with lowered expectations and just ready to give and serve, that's I feel like that goes so far. And obviously it did. As soon as you went all in, it totally showed up for you. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been it's been incredible. Yes, and I think you know, this is more of a from a business perspective. I get asked a lot, like, how did you grow your group? Like, because this is a pretty large group at this point, and there's always that like obsession that, okay, I want to start a group to find clients and make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that is it is a fine thing to do and think, and it could be perceived as a business strategy. But for me, when I started my group, what I think helped me grow it so fast is I was like, hey, come here. We're going to get so much value out of this. We are a community. If you have questions, let me know. I'm here to give back, and not really expect much in return. And I just wanted to build and foster relationships. And again, at that point, there was no goal of monetizing it. And if that was the case, I had no idea or no clarity on how I was, what that would look like. But I think for anyone who wants to start a Facebook group or who wants to grow their existing Facebook group, I would just say, don't think about it as a client generation tool. It could become that, but first and foremost, you should think of it as a community. And what do you want that community to look like?
Yeah, when the Facebook groups that feel like a community are the ones where people actually interact and talk, and that's how it becomes potentially something else too. So that's super cool. And I love the name of your group. It just that's what drew me to it in the first place.
I literally found it first.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say I literally never changed the name. This has been the same name for like since its inception. Since
that's awesome.
The minute I created, I was like, I just want the badass women to be in here. So that's how the name came up, and I refused to change it. I was like, this is it. I feel like it's part of my identity. It's a lot of women kind of identify themselves as, you know, badass women. I think we all are. So yeah, it's funny you say that.
Well, even like, so all last month we talked about our identities, and even like saying things that we don't necessarily believe but want to be. So like coming into your group, even the women who don't feel like a badass yet, like they're joining because they want to be. Like maybe they don't think that yet, but hey, this is where the badass women hang out. If I hang out with them, hopefully I'll become more badass, which yeah. But okay, so we've heard all the good parts of your business, but I'm sure, like, unless you are a magician, it seems like most entrepreneurial journeys have some setbacks, some hardships. Can you share any of the tougher struggles that you've had growing your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think when I started my business on the side at the beginning of the pandemic, and I wanted to basically just work on growing it. I still had a job. I still had a 9 to 5. So obviously juggling all that was quite the challenge. Um, I will have to say I did hustle, even though I'm
Yeah.
not crazy about the term. But I didn't do it from a place where I felt like this was going to be the norm. I knew this was just temporary and I had to
Mhm.
push through, and it didn't feel bad, right? It felt good in a way because I was like, okay, I'm getting traction. This is exciting. I'm getting clients. I'm so excited to be coaching them and helping them. And I was just very driven and excited about all the possibilities. But at some point, I think with everything all together, juggling the job, um, juggling a growing business, and the effects of the pandemic, right? Being home all the time, not having a social life anymore, um, and being especially in New York City, where we were in this small apartment, my husband and I working together from the same place, and we were together 24/7. And I'm sure most couples have never experienced that before. It's not now, maybe it's the norm. It wasn't the case before.
Mhm.
Um, and having all these places like stores and all that, coffee shops, everything was closed. um, I definitely um, I definitely hit some challenges, especially from a mental health perspective. It was obviously hard. I felt very isolated. I felt like that's all I was doing, just work, 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 nothing else. And I didn't have an escape. I didn't have the opportunity to, I don't know, drive down to the beach or go away for a weekend. It was just the reality of that year, which was really rough for everyone in the world, including being in a city, in a big city like New York, where um, the lockdown was pretty tight. So I really started struggling from a mental health perspective, and I started feeling, you know, just like having these thoughts and like seeing those, just feeling like I was having these symptoms that were just not good news from a mental health perspective. um, so I actually took a step back from my business at that point. So it grew fast at the beginning. I was really excited, and then just everything started catching on to me, and I just hit a breaking point and I just disappeared. um, the only place from my business, or the only area in my business where I didn't disappear from, was to like supporting my clients. I still did that, but I didn't do anything else. Like, I stopped showing up on social media. I stopped my marketing. I didn't do any more sales calls, or I didn't do anything in terms of sales. I just completely took a step back. I just stayed present with my clients. I took some weeks off as well. And I mean, at that point, I didn't have the foundations for the business to continue to run. So I did feel the effect, right? My income completely dropped to like zero. I was not getting any traction. Nothing was happening. It was just like dead. Um, and for me, I guess that was the biggest challenge I ran into in my business since its inception. Just because I knew that I had to prioritize my mental health if I wanted to keep going. I couldn't just continue doing everything, pretending everything was going to be perfect and fine, um, and neglecting my health, especially my mental health, which I think is something that nobody should ever neglect if anyone has the privilege to do that. So that was probably the hardest part of my business. Kind of stopping everything, going back to zero for a couple of months, and then starting over, right? Um, starting reappearing, starting getting active, starting being present in my groups, being open for, sales calls, for opportunities to work with new clients. But that was probably the hardest challenge I ran into. And thankfully I went through it, but I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't taken a break and taken care of myself.
How has that like kind of told you what to do now so that you don't get that, I don't know if it was like burnout or what it felt like for you, but like so you don't get that far again? Are there any
Yeah,
like things you have in place?
absolutely. First of all, my loved ones, my family, my husband, my close friends, these people are not going to be there forever, right? I'm not going to have that opportunity to spend time with them, to talk to them. And I think at some point I was so focused on the work itself that I just disconnected from everyone else. And I make an effort now not to do that. I know for a fact that if I haven't talked to my mom for a little too long, I'm calling her. I will stop everything and call her because she is a bigger priority than my business or the work. Um, my husband and I used to work on the weekends before, especially when I had the job. It was definitely um, a little bit of a necessity, but I didn't have any boundaries either. I would work like any random day of the week. Now I don't do that anymore. My weekends are precious. I will take the time with my husband. I will force him to like go somewhere with me, go on a date, spend time together, because I know these are healthy boundaries I needed to put in my life and my business in order to not have that situation repeat itself. Um, and Other things like prioritizing working out, taking some time off here and there, listening to my body. If I don't feel like I have the energy for a couple of days to do the work, I feel like just my energy levels are low, I listen to my body. I take some time off. I will do whatever is absolutely necessary for things to run, but I listen to my body. And although like everyone else, I want to make money, I want to be successful while making an impact. um, I'm the priority, right? My health is my priority, my mental health is my priority, my loved ones are as well. And I think I just needed to learn how to balance that all together.
Mhm. I love that. I mean, that touches on like everything that we talk about and teach people too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you are the tool to make all this stuff happen. And if you are not
Mhm.
strong, then the tool's gonna break and then the business doesn't exist anyway. So, and I think that goes for business, it goes for life. I mean, if you're a mom or a wife or a daughter, you have people that you need to show up for. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't show up for them. So, ugh.
absolutely.
But I also love, I think because there's been times in my business as well where I'm just overwhelmed by social media or whatever, and I need to take a step back. And it's always a scary thought because you're like, oh, if I don't, then what's going to happen? Like the algorithm is going to see I'm not here, and then they're not going to see any of my posts anymore, which is ridiculous. Like it's true that the algorithm will stop showing you as much, but again, like you are the priority, like you said. And I just think it's really cool to show how much you've bounced back from you took time. Like how long would you say you took off from showing up when you were like just clients only?
um I think it was at least two months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was significant. It wasn't a couple of
Yeah.
days or a couple of weeks. It was a couple of months where I essentially just disappeared to take care of myself.
Yeah, but now you're back and your business is thriving. It seems, at least from this perspective, it seems like it's thriving.
Absolutely. And I think I learned so much from that experience, and I was able to put the right boundaries in place.
Mhm.
And it's really weird because I feel like as soon as I set those boundaries and I took care of myself first, I reduced my hours. If I could, I would just delegate a little bit more. And my business like blew up. And I feel like a lot of the women who were following me, who we're kind of part of the journey. We're also seeing that, and in a way, it's become aspirational for them, right? They almost a lot. I got a lot of feedback where they would say, "Yeah, this is the life I want to lead. I want to have that balance. I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I want to be able to travel, spend time with my loved ones, and still have a thriving business." So in a way, which is really interesting, it's kind of worked out beautifully. I was able to have better balance. I feel happier. I feel more fulfilled. I have time for things that really matter. And at the same time, I felt like this almost attracted people to me, because that's ultimately what everyone wants. And anyone who says that's not what they want, I don't think. I think that's a big lie. That's what we all deserve, especially us women who have so much going on, right? Yeah, it's interesting how it all played out.
I also really loved how you said in the beginning that you knew the hustle was temporary and you loved it. Cause I mean, like, we've been there too, where you're having fun because you're making new things. You're in this creative flow, and it's attracting new people, which is just like, what the heck? It's working, which gives you more. Um, and so I feel like that is such an important takeaway, that like that you can hustle for a season, when you're in the season of creation and growth, that's a good time to hustle. But like sometimes that peters out, and that's okay. That's when you work on other things, whether it's other parts of your business or other parts of yourself, and that it is an ebb and flow. It should not be constant hustle, or it will ultimately lead to burnout. Like, it's inevitable. So yeah, I love that you said the hustle felt good and you knew it was temporary. I feel like that's a huge realization.
Yeah. I feel like also when you do something you really love and you're in your flow, and you're exactly like in that creative flow, it doesn't feel like hustle. It just feels good. It feels exciting. But at some point you do hit that ceiling or that limit where you're like, okay, I've passed that creative flow. Now I feel like it's starting to feel more like work, and I don't feel like I can dedicate all that time without feeling burned out, without feeling like unfulfilled or unhappy. So it's finding that sweet spot, but also preparing for the future, right? I had all my creative flows. I was feeling good. I knew it was temporary, but I also knew that at some point I was going to hire someone on my team and start delegating things to them that don't make me feel as excited at some point. So as long as you have, I guess, a understanding of what the temporary phase looks like, but also what the longer term vision looks like as well, this is kind of a little bit the recipe for success, because you'll be able to continue working towards your goals, knowing what is required now and what is required later, and what that would look like later.
Yeah, it's like wrapping everything together. Like, it's a learning process, and you have like, you get those excuse me, you get like those systems in place of the boundaries and knowing what you'll eventually delegate, and like just knowing what it feels like when flow is starting to go away. You're able to like then fall back on, okay, this is what I do when we're here, and then I know that I'll have this really exciting thing come up again, and I'll be in flow again, and what the future looks like. So I love that.
And I think like another thing too, which you mentioned way earlier, is that you kept going, like you have to stay consistent. And that's, I mean, even like take the breaks, but you have to like persevere through all of it, because once you've hit it once, when you come back to it, you're like, oh yeah, I've done this before. I mean, like I realized that early on in marriage, when, you have your first fight, you're like, oh, this is hard. What have I done? I made a huge mistake. But then the next fight comes and you're like, okay, we got through the last one. This is how we did it. We'll get through this one. And this is the same with business. Like, you hit these times where you're like, I'm a failure. What have I done? Why did I even think this is a good idea to start my own business? But then you get through it. But that's the main thing. You have to you have to come back, because once you come back, you're like, I can do this even when it gets hard. So
yeah.
good.
Yeah, we've all been through 100% of our bad days.
Yeah, true.
That's true. That's true. And I think that's the reality of having a business, right? It's also how you, like, of course you're going to have failures. That's totally normal and part of this whole journey. But how you bounce back from each failure and how you also face the next ones is
Mhm.
so important, because I feel like, as you said, like my first failures in my business, or when I went through that whole situation where I felt super overwhelmed, burnt out, I was like really not feeling good from a mental health perspective. Um, I was like, that's it, that's the end. Like, this business
Uh-huh.
did not last too long. I maybe just should go back to, just just picturing myself having a 9 to 5 the rest of my life, and like trying to be okay with
Uh-huh.
that. And now I will hit those smaller challenges again, right? Or even big ones, but my perspective and the way I face them is so different than it used to be. Like, I won't just feel
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm gonna give up, or like, oh, maybe I'm not made for this. I'd be like, okay, all right, this is another challenge. No problem. I will get through it. Let
Mhm.
me think about it, realistically. What do I need to do in order to get through it? I won't let it get to me as much as it would usually, or it had in the past. So you almost, yeah, you learn to be really resilient. I guess that's probably the right word. But yeah, it's the normal part of the journey.
Yeah.
That made me think of weightlifting. Like, the first time you go to the gym, 50 pounds is so freaking heavy. But if you keep going to the gym, eventually, like, you'll get to 100 pounds and 50 pounds feels light. So I feel like it's the same with challenges. Like, right, that when you first had that challenge, it was like the heaviest, biggest one. And now all the challenges, you're like, okay, well, like my muscles are already built for this. I got it. I know what to do here.
Mhm.
That's the
That's
visual I
a
got.
great analogy. It's a
Yeah.
good one.
Okay, so you shared, wait, did you have, before I went to go to reality, or yeah, the raw moment, do you have any other questions business wise, Jess?
Um, no, I think we're good.
Okay. Um, okay, so you shared the hardest part of your business. So now what we're gonna ask is for you to share the rawest moment of your whole life, business or not, that you're willing to share. And the reason we ask this is because I think it's really easy to see super successful people and think like, oh yeah, well she can do it because, her life was set up for success or whatever, because not enough people talk about the hard stuff. So our goal is to normalize that, like, hey, things can be hard and that's okay. Because the more we talk about it, the more women realize it doesn't matter what's been thrown their way, they can also persevere and overcome, which you talked a lot about with your business. So maybe that was it. But do you have any other raw moments that you are willing to share, to talk about that you're normal, you're just as normal as the rest of us?
Yes, there are many. It's not like, definitely I am far from, having all my stuff together. My life wasn't always easy. I do feel like I'm privileged in general, with everything I got. My life wasn't, perfect life wasn't handed on a silver platter. But yes, I'm willing to talk to you about the some raw moments in my life. I think a big one is probably, um, when I grew up. I was mentioning at the beginning that I lived in all these different places, and I think for probably most people, and especially that's the feedback I get. Oh my God, you're like so lucky. We're living in all these different places. That's amazing. What they don't see is that I was fairly young. I traveled between the age of 2 and 10, and lived in all these different places that speak different languages, that have different cultures. And I think at that age, it was really hard to go to a new environment and feel like I was accepted, right? I always felt like an outcast because would go to this. So just to tell you a little bit from a linear perspective, what my life was like, my childhood. I left I left North Africa, specifically Algeria. That's my home country. I went to France. Everyone spoke French. I spoke a little bit of French, but I was I was behind a little bit. And then at some point, we went back to Algeria. And Algeria is an Arabic-speaking country, and I had to learn how to speak, write, and read Arabic in like less than a year. And then I went back to France. I had another, reintegration and into the environment there. And then I left for Canada, Quebec specifically, which was also totally different, where I had to learn English. So I had to adapt to all these different environments, cultural expectations, places where we were speaking different languages, and readapt every time. And I'm not even talking about making new friends or, leaving my other friends behind, which was a little traumatic when you're so young. But I think the biggest part, the rawest part for me to share is that I never felt home. I always felt like an outcast. I was bullied. I felt like I was never accepted because I was not there for too long. When I went to France, I was, the immigrant. I just came from another country. When I came back to my home country, I was also the immigrant because I didn't grow up there. I had kind of part of the culture, but I was never fully seen as like I'm Algerian. And in France, I was never fully seen as someone who is French. And then when I went to Canada, I was never fully seen as someone who is Canadian. So I think all that together, I think it's in a way it shaped me and helped me become who I am today, which is, being resilient and being able to adapt to different environments and, remaining positive, even though life is going to throw all kind of stuff at you, being able to kind of get back up and keep going. But at the same time, I do feel like until now, like I don't belong anywhere, right? I am a kind of citizen of the world in a way, which is kind of a cool thing to say. But I've just had my life split up in all these different places, and I never felt like I was home anywhere, because I didn't grow up there. I didn't spend all my life there. And there's like that language barrier, the cultural barrier. There's all these different barriers. And I'm happy with who I am today, but it's definitely probably the rawest, most raw part of yeah. As you can see, my English is not that perfect because this is like my third language.
We struggle with that too. It's our podcast name, and we always trip over that word, so you're not alone.
Yeah. So I think that's the really raw part of my life that I still think affects who I am today, not just in my business but in my life. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So good.
Thank you for sharing.
I've always felt like that as well, just because I moved all around the states, so I can't even like. And I think the states have a lot of different cultures, but they all speak English, and I've had that in my favor. So man, I can't. But it's so good to hear, because I feel like a lot of times we feel alone when we feel like outcasts. But I feel like probably the majority of people feel like an outcast because you get looked at weird if someone doesn't understand one of the qualities about you. Like, it's a quality that you speak all these different languages and that you've experienced all these different cultures. But if I'm not used to that, I might judge it and be like, oh, well, Reem, she spells her name differently than it sounds. Like, how strange is that? Where it's like, no, like, that's a beautiful part of who you are. And like, all of it is so beautiful. And I think, yeah, oh, I know what you mean, because I moved schools a bunch too, so I was bullied. And I think you have to kind of come to a place where you accept, okay, like, those people, those bullies don't define who I am. And I'm a badass, damn it. They're wrong. Oh man, it's hard. Thank
Yeah.
you so
I
much for
have
sharing that.
similar like moving
What?
around, like in different schools. I have like the similar experience within the U.S., like moving around within those ages. And then my daughter now has a little bit of that, and she's just super unique and owns it, but feels the same feelings. But like now as an adult, I get to look at her and say, I went through it too. I get that it super sucks, like how it feels when you're going through it, and there's still some lingering stuff that go through that kind of stuff. I feel like are the coolest people as adults because it shapes who we are and makes us resilient and like adaptable and we're badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think most of us have felt at some point in time like an outcast. I don't think this is a situation unique to someone who's traveled or who moved around the world. As you mentioned, like the US, yes, is one country, but I do feel like every state is so unique and different, which is really cool because you have, like, I went to Texas a couple of years ago and I was like, oh my God, this could be like a country because
Oh yeah.
there's so many, like, their culture is so unique and I loved it and it was so much fun being there. But you could see how there's all this diversity within one country. So I can imagine even being here and just maybe moving states, how that also can trigger the same um, type of kind of reaction or experience. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Where do you live now?
I'm in Florida right now.
Oh, are you? We both lived in Florida
Yes.
before.
Yeah, I'm in Florida. We decided to move down from New York because it was a little tough living there during the pandemic, and we were like, let's just move. Let's just go and be closer to the beach, the warmth, and just pretty much have a better quality of life. And if we want to come back to New York, that's fine. We can do that in the future. But for now, we've been away from the cold and winter, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And it's been good to live here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where in Florida are you? Because we both mostly grew up in Florida, but we're not there
yeah.
anymore.
I'm in Sarasota.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Clearwater,
Oh,
so
yeah.
real close.
Yeah, you're close, definitely.
Super cool.
Well, go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, so we also really like to do a little lightning round at the end with all of our guests, just to kind of have some fun and, especially after sharing some raw moments, bring some fun and lightness to it. So I have 6 questions for you, and lightning round means, quick answers, as quick as you can think of them. So the first one is, what's your favorite candy?
Favorite candy? Does chocolate count?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
as
would
a
say
whole, totally.
definitely Twix. Twix is like
Ooh.
my favorite candy ever.
What is as a citizen of the world, what is your favorite vacation spot?
My favorite vacation spot is New Zealand. I went
Ooh.
there for my honeymoon with my husband, and it was incredible. Incredible country, like nothing I've ever seen before anywhere. So yeah, New Zealand is my favorite spot.
That's awesome. I've heard the culture there is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Next one, what is your like go-to self-care activity?
Go-to self-care activity, I would say just taking care of my skin. Doing like exfoliating my skin, using all these amazing creams that I spent so much money on in one sitting, and just really pampering my skin. I think that's my favorite self-care activity.
That's awesome. I need to be better at that because,
it definitely shows.
Not getting any younger. Yeah,
thank you.
It's beautiful.
Okay, so we are huge supporters of small businesses, especially being, small business owners ourselves. So do you have any sort of favorite small business that you'd like to share today?
Small business. Oh my God, there's so many.
It could be
You want like,
local, online, whatever, just whatever you feel lately is one of your favorites.
oh my God, I need to think about it for a second. Small business.
She also coaches so many small business people, so
Yeah.
you're definitely exposed to the small business world.
Yeah, there's so many. I guess maybe I could say another coach that's been absolutely life changer for me. She's the reason I'm here today. I really gotta give her a lot of credit, but she's an African American coach, female coach, and she's been incredible. Her name is Lattice Hudson, and she has a small business. And she's just someone I support a lot. She's incredible, and I think as well as a woman of color, she's been definitely impacting the coaching space in a very positive way. So yeah, I support
What's her coaching business name, and like what does she coach on?
She uses her name, so Lattice Hudson.
Okay.
She works with coaches only, and she helps them create a high ticket offer, and pretty much has her own kind of way of doing funnels, and she uses a lot of simplicity.
Oh, cool.
She is big on getting results without sacrificing as well your time, your mental health, and all that. So she's very similar to me, but she only works with coaches specifically.
Cool.
I love it.
We'll put her in the show notes so that
Yeah,
give her a
we will.
shout out. What does balance mean to you?
Balance means having the chance to do something that is going to be considered work, and still have time for spending time with your loved ones, taking care of yourself, doing things that have nothing to do with your job or your business, and just feel good at the end of the day, right? I think this is what balance means for me. It's being able to juggle both without feeling like we're having to sacrifice one thing for another.
Mm-hmm. Love
So
that.
good.
And then the last question is, what is your favorite thing about you?
My favorite thing about myself. I'm gonna sound like I brag.
No, that's the point.
I think my favorite thing about myself is, I would say, like being a citizen of the world. Going back to that, I think has been working to my advantage. Being more open to different types of people, cultures, countries, ways of doing things. Um, I think that's probably what I love the most about myself. So I'm a very kind of tolerant person, open-minded. I accept everyone for who they are, even though they might be different or even have different perspectives than I have. So I think that ability to being accepting of a lot of different situations and people, etc., probably stems from the fact that I experienced so many different places and environments in my life, and I know what it is to feel like an outcast, and I would never want anyone to feel the same way.
I love that so much.
I love that about you too.
I have one other little question that I thought of earlier, and I thought it would fit in perfectly here. What is your favorite part about your business? Or your favorite thing about it?
My favorite thing about my business, I think it's the ability to truly impact people's lives. I think that's probably my favorite thing. Just like any businesses, it is a business, right? It has all these different components that are, I don't want to say boring, but more monotonic or, like it's a business, right? There's taxes, there's expenses, there's, managing a team. There's all these things that are just like it is any part of any businesses. But I do feel like in mine, I have not just me, even my team, we all have this opportunity and this privilege to be able to create a positive impact in our clients' lives, or even non-clients, right? Even people in my group, essentially I'm just helping them without any compensation, and that is totally okay. I love that. It's that capacity, that ability to be able to make an impact. I think that's probably the favorite thing in my business. This is what keeps me going. This is what makes me happy when I wake up in the morning. This is what gets me excited to jump on calls with my clients, and in a way, and then help them. So I think that's probably my favorite part of my business.
I love it. I honestly didn't realize how aligned we were when to be like 100% honest, I had a dream that we interviewed you, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Reem. Sorry. So sorry. I've always said your name, Reem, every time I've read it for the past year. Reem. Anyway, so I told myself I was going to reach out, like, just because I had this dream. And then you said yes right away, which I wasn't expecting, because I know you're like launching and busy, but I seriously had no idea how much you aligned with, like, because that's what we're all about, is being open and loving, and like just meeting people where they're at, whether they're paying you or they're just in your inner circle or outer circle or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. If they're there for a reason, and you can impact that. Oh, I love it. I love everything you had to say. It was so inspirational today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. That was really fun. I didn't also realize how aligned we were, because I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind, getting on the podcast, and it's always fun, to do that. And then I read more about it, and, more about you too. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be, I feel like this is going to be really fun. This is going to be a really cool opportunity to get together and talk openly. Right. So yeah, thank you for having me. That was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Can you share with our audience where they can best get in touch with you if they'd like to?
Sure. I think the easiest way is to just go to www.mycoachreem.com, which is spelled mycoachrym.com. Over there, I have pretty much a link to join my Facebook group, a link to follow me on Instagram if you want to get together with me on Instagram or be part of the community. So that's probably going to be the easiest way to reach me.
Awesome. And just one more plug, definitely join the Facebook group because it's so fun. What's the official title?
Badass Babes Entrepreneurs.
Badass Babes Entrepreneurs. There you go. So we'll put those links in the show notes as well. Yeah, and check Reem out. She's obviously an amazing woman, even more amazing than I realized when we scheduled this interview. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you mind if we just say our close real quick while we're still recording?
Yeah.
Okay. And thank all of you for joining and listening. We hope you found as much inspiration as we got out of today's episode. It was so lovely. And of course, we'd also love for you to be a part of the show. We want to know what balance means to you. So you can send us a clip of what balance means to you to hello@inrawlife.com. And we might feature you at the beginning of a show.
And also remember, if you want to listen to more of these episodes, more of these interviews, rate, review, and subscribe so you're always getting information about the podcast, and share it with whoever you believe needs to hear this or wants to hear this. You can also find us on our group for Power Unstoppable Women. And until next week, I hope that you go join both of the groups if you feel called to. If you feel like you're a badass woman, entrepreneur, or an empowered, unstoppable woman. And I hope that you embrace whatever the struggles you've been through and come out the other side realizing just how awesome you are. Bye.
All right. And you can stop recording, and I'll send you the email that you can send the audio clip to.